Minister. I now give the floor to the Ambassador and Permanent Representative of China. You have the floor.
Mr. President, China is highly concerned about the increasingly challenging situation in Syria. We oppose terrorism and violence in all their forms and strongly condemn the recent killing of civilians and the bomb attack in Damascus on July the 18th. The top priority for the international community now is to render full support and coordination to Joint Special Envoy Annan's mediation, support the implementation of the final communiqué adopted by the Foreign Ministers meeting of the Action Group on Syria held in Geneva, the relevant Security Council resolutions, and Mr. Annan's 6-point plan, and push for an immediate ceasefire and the cessation of all violence and to provide preconditions for the solution of the crisis. On this, al-Assad has played an important and irreplaceable role. Therefore, China supports the extension of the mandate of al-Assad and endorses Secretary General Ban Ki-moon's proposal to appropriately adjust the work of al-Assad. China supports the Security Council in sending a clear signal about its support for Mr. Annan's mediation and promotion of political settlement of the Syrian crisis. We have been vigorously pushing for consensus among the Security Council members through consultations. However, the draft resolution tabled by UK, the US, and France completely goes against these goals. First, the draft resolution is seriously problematic, with uneven content that is intended to put pressure on only one party. Experience has proven that such practice would not help resolve the Syrian issue, but instead would only derail this issue from the track of political settlement. It will not only further aggravate the turmoil, but also result in spillover of the problem to other countries in the region, undermine regional peace and stability, and ultimately impair the interests of the people in Syria and other countries in the region. Second, the draft resolution would seriously erode international trust and cooperation on the issue of Syria. Mr. Annan's mediation is an important and realistic way out for political solution of the Syrian issue. It is an important means. Not long ago, thanks to the efforts of all parties, the Foreign Ministers meeting of the Action Group on Syria, initiated by Joint Special Envoy Annan, adopted a final communiqué which forged consensus among major parties and opened a new window of opportunity for appropriate settlement of the Syrian crisis. At present, Mr. Annan's efforts to implement the outcome of the meeting are at a critical juncture. This draft resolution, however, fundamentally violated the consensus reached at the Geneva meeting and has seriously disrupted the new round of mediation efforts made by Joint Special Envoy Annan. Third, sovereign equality and non-interference in other countries' internal affairs are basic norms governing state-to-state relations enshrined in the UN Charter. China has no self-interest in the Syrian issue. We have all along maintained that the prospect and destiny of Syria should be independently determined by the Syrian people, rather than imposed by outside forces. We believe the Syrian issue must be resolved through political means, and military means would go nowhere. This is China's consistent position on international affairs. It is not targeted at a particular incident or at a certain time. Our purpose is to safeguard the interests of the Syrian people and Arab countries, and the interests of all countries, the small and medium-sized countries in particular, and safeguard the role and authority of the United Nations and the Security Council, as well as the basic norms governing international relations. Fourth, this draft resolution jeopardizes the unity of the Security Council. The Council unanimously adopted resolutions 2042 and 2043 displaying a hard-won spirit of unity and cooperation. During consultations on this draft, the sponsoring countries failed to show any political will of cooperation. They adopted a rigid and arrogant approach to the reasonable core concerns of the relevant countries and refused to make revisions. It is even more regrettable that, under circumstances when parties were still seriously divided and there was still enough time for continued consultation, the sponsoring countries refused to heed the call of China and some other Security Council members and Joint Special Envoy Annan for further consultation until a text acceptable to all parties is formed, and pressed for a vote on this draft resolution. China is strongly opposed to such practice. Based on the above reasons, China could not accept this draft resolution and voted against it. Just now, certain countries made statements that confused right and wrong and made unfounded accusations against China. They are completely wrong and have other motives. China strongly opposes this. China has all along participated in the consultations in the Security Council on the relevant resolutions concerning Syria in a positive, responsible, and constructive manner, with a view to push for a ceasefire and the cessation of all violence in Syria, and for the implementation of the communique of the Geneva meeting and the Security Council resolutions 2042 and 2043, and the Annan 6-point plan. China has committed itself to reaching consensus and worked hard for smooth extension of the mandate of al-Smith and supported Mr. Annan's mediation efforts. In contrast, a few countries have been eager to interfere in the internal affairs of other countries and in fueling the flame and sowing discourse in total disregard of the consequences. From the very beginning, they have adopted a negative attitude toward Mr. Annan's mediation and the deployment of al-Smith. Over the past few months, they have been spreading words about the futility and failure of Mr. Annan's mediation and al-Smith. This time, they repeated their old trick by setting preconditions and obstacles for the extension of al-Smith and packed it to invoking of Chapter 7 of the UN Charter and the threat of sanctions in an attempt to change, even repudiate, the hard-won consensus reached by the Action Group during the Geneva meeting. They showed no sincerity but arrogance during the consultations. We cannot help but question their willingness to see extension of al-Smith or early settlement of the Syrian crisis through a Syrian-led political process. We urge these countries to earnestly reflect on their policy and behavior and immediately return to the right track. Mr. President, at present, there is still some time before the mandate of al-Smith expires. We hope and call upon the sponsors to change their mind, respond positively to the proposals of Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and Joint Special Envoy Annan, and support the extension of the mandate of al-Smith with a view to bring about political solution of the Syrian issue and protect the fundamental interests of the people of Syria and other countries in the region, and to safeguard the credibility, authority, and unity of the Security Council. China supports the proposal of Pakistan and South Africa on the adoption of a resolution for a technical rollover of al-Smith, and hope that a consensus can be reached as soon as possible among the Security Council members. Thank you, Mr. President.